said that her father, Robert Walter Bow, had a quirky, had a quick, keen mind and natural qualifications to make someone buy something of himself, but didn't. And everything seemed to go wrong for him. But by the time Clara was 4 and a half, her father was out of work. And between 1905 and 1923, the family lived in 14 different addresses, but seldom outside of Prospect Heights. With Clara's dad often absent, um, she will go on to say that I don't think my mom ever knew loved my father, and he knew it, and it made him very unhappy, for he worshipped her always. Um, now, when Clara's mom was 6. Hello, my name is Breezy. This is True Crime Lounge. I'm acting like a complete idiot while watching a Hillary Duff podcast. On appear on the podcast. And I have like 2 hours for I have to get ready to head to work. So what am I doing? I am recording some podcast episodes for y'all. I just got done with Miss Jean Springler. Now I'm working on Clara Bow. And you're probably wondering, why the hell is she talking about Clara Bow? We get she was an old Hollywood starlet, but she also probably knows about Miss Clara Bow from Miss Taylor Allison Swift. You would be wrong. I love me some true crime. I also love old Hollywood, and I knew about Clara Bow. And yes, I am still a Swiftie at heart. Do I love her new album? Hell yes, I do. Opalite is my favorite song from that new album, and I'm just want to dance to it every time it comes on. But we're not here to talk about that, are we? No, we're not. So if you're new here, hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe, help a girl out. I don't know if I'm gonna put I don't know if I have the comments on enough for this, but yeah. But speaking of which, before I dive in, Hillary Duff has new music out, and I think it's important to say because it talks about and it hits when you've been the victim of grooming. And guys, I just want to say this real quick: if you've ever been the victim of grooming, it's not your fault. You need to go get help, and it's not your fault. Therapy helps. I'm telling y'all, therapy is a mindset. But today we are on episode 143. We are on part one of four of our four-part series of Miss Clara Bow. So you're probably wondering, how in the world did this Hollywood starlet have get involved with true crime? Well, if you recall, she had some stuff stolen from her and she had to go to trial. So technically it became true crime. And we'll also talk about old Hollywood. I love old Hollywood. It's crazy when you go back and look at the contract law behind it and you're like, what? Yeah. But who is Miss Clarabelle? Well, Miss Clarabelle was born in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, in a bleak, sparsely furnished room above a dilapidated Baptist church. And she was born July 29th, 1905. Hey, one day before me, but I was born in 1996. Now, she had two older sisters who were born in 1903 and 1904, but they died in infancy. Her mom, Sarah Frances Bow, was told by a doctor not to get pregnant anymore, um, for a fear that the next baby might die as well. Now, despite the warning, she became pregnant with Clara in 1904, Not only was her pregnancy risky, but it was a heat wave in New York City in July 1905, not surprising. And the temperatures were peaking at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And years later, Clara will write, I don't suppose two people ever looked death in the face more clearly than my mom. And I told her in the morning I was born, and we were both given up, but somehow we struggled back to life. Now her parents were of English and Scottish Irish immigrants who had come to America the generation before. Now Bow said that her father Robert Walter Bow had a quirky, had a quick, keen mind and natural qualifications to make someone by something of himself, but didn't. And everything seemed to go wrong for him. But by the time Clara was 4 and a half, her father was out of work. And between 1905 and 1923, the family lived in 14 different addresses, but seldom outside of Prospect Heights. With Clara's dad often absent, um, she will go on to say that I don't think my mom ever knew loved my father, and he knew it, and it made him very unhappy. For he worshipped always, for he worshipped her always. Um, now, when Clara's mom was 16, she fell from a second-story window and suffered a severe head injury. She was later diagnosed with psychosis due to I'm sorry, when Clara was 16, her mom fell from a second-story window. No, 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 I was right the first time. I was just misreading my words. But when Clara's mom was 16, she fell from a second-story window and suffered a severe head injury. She was later diagnosed with psychosis due to epilepsy. But her earliest years, Bo had to learn how to take care of her mom during the seizures, as well as how to deal with psychotic and hostile episodes. Now, she would later go she later said that her mom could be mean to me and was often, but she didn't mean to be, and it was because she couldn't help it. And still, Bo felt deprived of her childhood. And as a kid, she had to take care of her mom, and she didn't take care of me. Why is that hitting home? I grew up with a narcissistic mom, for crying out loud, who always relied on me to be the kid and not the adult and not the kid. Hell, I just wanted to be a kid, for crying out loud. But anyway, Sarah worsened gradually, and when she realized her daughter was set for a movie role, her mom would tell her she would be better off dead. And one night in February 1922, she woke up with a butcher knife held against her throat by her mom, and she was able to fend her off an attack and later her mom in the room. In the morning, Bo's mom had no recollection of the episode and later committed to a sanitarium by was later committed to a sanitarium by Robert Bow. Now, she would speak about the incident later, saying it was snowing and I was cold and I was hungry, and we had been cold and hungry for 4 days, and we would lay in each other's arms, cried and to keep warm, and it grew worse and worse. So that night, my mom, but I can't tell you about it. Only I remember it, and I cannot. But it seems to me that I can't live now. According to her biographer, David Stern, Bo was raped by her father at the age of 16 while her mom was institutionalized. And on January 5th, 1923, Sarah would die at 43 from epilepsy. When relatives gathered at the funeral, Bo was so upset that she went crazy, tried to jump out the window into the grave with her, now shouting that they were hypocrites and that they didn't love her or care for her the way her mom was alive. Now, Bo would attend public school in New York City, and as she grew up, she felt very shy among other girls who teased her for her worn out clothes and her carrot top hair. And she said that her childhood, I never had any good clothes, and a lot of them were, and I didn't have anything to eat. We just lived, and that's all. Now, um, from first grade, um, Both preferred to accompany a boy, stating that I could lick any boy any my size, and my right arm was quite famous. Now, my right arms also developed a pitching so much that once I hopped on a ride behind the fire engine, I got a line of credit from a gang for that. Now, a close friend who was a younger boy lived in her building, burned to death. Something that haunted her is she heard the screams and ran to his aid, rolling up the carpet to stop the fire. But he died in her arms, and in 1919, Bo would enroll in Bay Ridge High School for Girls, where she said sexual with sweaters and old skirts and didn't like to be treated like a girl. Now, her mom had a long spell of good health and changed Bo's appearance, cutting her hair to be more feminine. And Bo said that there was one boy who had been her pal, said that he kissed me, I wasn't sore, and I didn't get indignant. And I was horrified and hurt that I knew I could never go back to being a tomboy. Now, Bo's interest in sports and physical abilities led to her playing for a career as an athletic instructor. She won 5 medals at the cinder tracks and credited her cousin Homer Baker, the national half mile champion, in 1913 and 1914 in a 660-yard world record, being her trainer. Now, in the Bows and Bakers all shared a house or that are standing on at 33 Prospect Place in 1920. Now, let's talk about her career, especially the early years. In 1920, roughly about 50 million Americans, um, half the population at the time, attended the movies every week. And as Bo grew up into womanhood, her stature as a boy and her old gang became impossible. She did not have any girlfriends, and school was a heartache, and her home was miserable. Now, and on the silver screen, she found consolation for the first time in her life, and she knew there was beauty in the world. Now, for the first time, she saw distant serenes, lovely homes, romance, and nobility glamour, and she also had a queer feeling about actors and actresses, and knew that she would, and she knew she would have done it differently. And she couldn't analyze it, but she always could feel it. Go home and be a one girl circus, taking on the parts of everyone has seen, living then before the house. And at 16, Bo says she knew she wanted to be a motion pictures actress before she was in a before she was a square, awkward, funny faced kid. Now, against her mom's wishes but her dad's support, Bo competed in the Brewster Publications magazine's annual nationwide acting contest, Fame and Fortune, in the fall of 1921. Um, Other writers have found that would find work in movies. In indie contest final scenes, Bo was against her was up against a already seen experienced woman who did a beautiful piece of acting. A set member later stated that when Bo did the scene, she actually became her character and lived it. In the January issues of 1922 of the motion picture classic, The Contest jury, however, Chandler Christie, Nisa McMahon, and Harrison Fisher concluded that she is very young, only 16, full of confidence, determination, um, and ambition, and she is endowed with mentality far beyond her years. She had a genuine spark of divine for the fire. Now, the 5 different screen tests that she did showed a very plainly her emotional range and her expression for provoking a fine enthusiasm from every contest judge who saw the test. Now, she screens perfectly, and her personal appearance is almost enough to carry the success without the aids of her brain. Now, Bo will won an evening gown and a silver trophy, and the publisher committed to help her gain a role in film, but nothing happened. Now, Bo's father told her to haunt Brewster's office, located in Brooklyn, until they came up with something. And to get rid of her, she said that they really did give her all the time, they were just busy. Now, Bow was later introduced to a Christy Cobain who cast her in Beyond the Rainbow, produced late in 1920, New York City, and released February 9th, 1922. Now, Bow did 5 scenes and impressed Cobain with her ability to produce tears on call. Now, it was cut from the final print and was sick to her stomach, and she will recall that her mom was right about the film industry. Now, let's talk about Bo and Undercover now. Let's see, 1923. Bo dropped out of high school her senior year, and she notified her after she was notified about winning the Fame and Fortune contest, possibly in 1921, and she would get an ordinary office job. However, movie ads and editorial papers um, from 1923 to 1922 to 1923 would suggest that Bo was not cut from Beyond the Rainbow, but her name is on the cast list among the other stars, usually tagged Brewster's Magazine's beauty contest winner, and sometimes even with a picture. Now, her early silent films were encouraged by her dad, and by continuing to visit studio agencies asking for parts, but there was always something. Um, she was too young, she was too little, she was too fat. She and eventually, director Elmore Clifton needed a tomboy for a movie down down up to the Sea of Ships. Word Bow and saw Bow in a motion picture classic magazine and sent for her. Now, in an attempt to overcome her youthful looks, Bo would put her hair and arrive in a dress that she sneaked from her mom's closet. Clifton says she was too old, but broke into a laughter as stammering as Bo made him believe she was a girl in the magazine. Now Clifton decided to take Bo with her and offer her $35 a week. Bo held out for 50 and Clifton agreed, but he could not whether she was a fit for the part. Now, Bo would later learn that one of Brewster's sub-editors had urged Clifton to give her a chance. So, Down to the Sea and Ships shot a location in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and produced by the independent Dwelling Film Corporation, documented life and worked in the Wells Hunters community. Now, the production relied on a few less known actors and local talents. It also premiered at the Olympia Theater in New Bedford on September 25th, 1922, and would work for general distributions on March 4th, 1923. Now, Bo was billed the 10th of the film, but shown through. Um, Now, it will even go on to say that Miss Bow will undoubtedly gain fame in a screen comedian. Clara Bow, who was searched for the first ranked motion picture, scored a tremendous. Now, with her beauty, her brains, her personality, and her genuine ability, um, not to be not to be many moves before her, she enjoys stardom in the fullest sense of the word in every movie presence. Now, you're probably wondering, by mid December 1923, primarily due to her merits in Down the Sea and the Ships, Bo was chosen for a successful 1924 Wampus Baby Stars. 3 months later, Down to the Sea and the Ships was released, and Bo danced on the table, uncredited in Enemies of Women, and during the year, she made short films to fill the Pill Finder and Spring. Bo got a part in the Darling Years, where she befriended an actress, Mary Carr, who taught her how to use makeup. And in the summer, she got a tomboy part in Grit, a story that dealt with juvenile crime that was written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, Bo would meet her first boyfriend and cameraman, Arthur Jacobson, and she would get to know the director, Frank Tuttle, with whom will work on 5 later productions. Um, Whereas, and Tuttle will remember that her emotions was so close to the surface that she would cry on command, open the floodgates and the tears. And I asked her to weep, and she was dynamic in every performance. Now, Grit was released January 7, 1924, and the Variety Review said Clara lingers in the eye long after the picture while shooting a Grit in Pyramid Studios in Astoria, New York. Bow was approached by Jack Bachman in the independent Hollywood, and he wanted to contract her for a 3-month trial, fair paid, and $50 a week. And he would go on to say he couldn't do any harm. And why can't I stay in New York and make movies? Bo would ask her dad. He told her not to worry, and on July 21st, 1923, she would befriend Luella Parsons, who interviewed her for a New York Morning Telegraph. And in 1931, when Bo came under tabloid scrutiny, Parsons defended her and stuck to her first opinion of Bo, which she will go on to say, she's refreshingly unaffected as if she had been means to pretend. She hasn't any secrets from the world and she trusts everyone. Now she is also too good to be true. She's only wishes to some reformer would give her the screen time. An interview revealed that Bo already was cast in Maytime and liked chopped suey restaurants. All right, this is it for part one of our four-part series. Come back next time, and we're going to be talking about the preferred pictures and the Paramount pictures for her. And then and I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a happy Thanksgiving, and y'all stay safe, and just remember there's something to always be grateful for.